I learned about how to be I learned more about America watching British nature documentaries than any other thing, man. Right, that's how I learned that America has a bit of a football problem. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that in America, perhaps we like football just a little too much. You know how I know? It's because it's watching American football, right? Not the one that you play that actually resembles something kind of like a game called football. Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. But they were like, but I was watching this nature documentary, and here in America we get two versions. We get the British version narrated by noted naturalist David Attenborough, right? And then in the American version they have the noted naturalist Sigourney Weaver, right? And the two versions, the British version and the American version, they're identical. They're totally identical, with one key exception. In the English version, they just tell you how big things are. The fjords of Norway rise over 300 meters above the wave below. And like a test group of Americans must have been like, what? Because in the American version, they tell you how big things are, and then they tell you what that means in terms of how many football fields, right? All right, the fjords of Norway rise over 300 meters above the waves below. What? That's a distance of over 3 football fields. Wow. Down in the tidal pools below, a baby seahorse draws in its first breath. At the moment of its first life, it is less than 3 millimeters from nose to tip. What? That's less than 1/100th of 1% of 1 football field. Wow. Because we think any British person on TV and talking is smart. We also think in America, anybody in a suit and tie on TV talking is smart, even if that person is only talking about football. And those people, I'm afraid to report, are so stupid that they can't even remember what sport they're talking about without constantly reminding themselves and everyone else at home that they are, in fact, talking about football. They're like, if you want to win football games in the National Football League, you got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to throw the football. If you throw that football, you got to have someone there to catch that football. And the National Football League, catching the football means getting both hands on the football, both feet down on that football field, then making a distinct football move up the football field. So what do I expect to see out there on that football field today? I expect to see 2 outstanding football teams made of outstanding football players making outstanding football plays all up and down the football field. Yeah, and then after all of that, they have the audacity to ask me if I am ready for some football. We think we for a while have thought football is the news, right? Like, no, for real. Like I remember I was in college. And it was when they captured Saddam Hussein, and it was like a Sunday, and I was watching football, and they were like, no, for real. And they were like, okay, well, before we send you out to the games, Fox Sports just wants to let you know at home that American troops have captured Saddam Hussein. I was like, whoa. All right, and then Terry Bradshaw interjects, and he's like, hey, I just want to say something. I just want to say something. And the camera goes to him, and he looks right in the camera, and he just goes, Osama, you're next, my friend. And I'm like, yeah, who was that aimed at? Exactly. It's like not Osama bin Laden himself. It's not like he was in his apartment complex in Pakistan with a satellite dish. Like, what? Here I am sitting down to watch the critical Week 14 matchup between the Chicago Bears, peace be upon them, and the infidel Minnesota Vikings. Now, how will I know who to play in my fantasy game? You know what I mean? That's the thing. Fantasy football is a bridge too far for me, man. Like, the only thing that's, like, weirder to me than football is fantasy football. Right? Because, like, I tried to ask my friend, I was like, well, why do you play fantasy football? He's like, oh, well, it's awesome. I get to pretend I'm the owner and I get to set the lineup like I'm the owner of the football team. And I'm like, hey, man, no offense, but that's not the part about being an NFL owner that I would fantasize about, you know?